Welcome everyone to our special edition show of the Nightly News. We are so sad this will be our last time reporting here, but we can't wait to share these stories with you.
It really has been such a fun semester, from embarrassing people on Valentine's Day to covering some incredible stories about our students, and even researching the events taking place in Ukraine. We felt so honored to be able to report the news to our campus. Alright, so let's jump into these stories. Fatima Bryant lived 15 years with people who claimed to be her parents, and is now fighting to stay in the United States with the help of her attorney and professor, Arnette.
I can't wait to learn more about her story. Hannah Koch has the story.
A happy family. Parents with their newly adopted daughter, 5-year-old Fatima. Fatima would spend the next 15 years with them, completely oblivious to the secret they had been keeping from her.
I was indeed not documented, and that the Taylors never adopted me, and I never was adopted.
Fatima met the Taylors at an orphanage in Nicaragua, and they took her to the United States under a temporary visa. However, they wouldn't take her back, and they would tell Fatima that she was adopted and that they were her parents.
My childhood with the Taylors was very much, in the beginning, I would call it the honeymoon phase. The Taylors were so in love with me, and I started noticing, just some inconsistencies with their story. I would often ask Charlotte where my birth certificate was, and she would always tell me, oh, it's, somewhere, it's in storage. They would be very adamant, no, your birthday is August 7th. Your mother didn't know when you were born. And then the next year, well, technically January 8th is your birthday, but we celebrated August 7th.
On July 1st, 2019, Fatima received a letter that would change the rest of her life and bring a halt to the Taylors' lies. Her citizenship status was under review.
I thought it was just, something that could easily be fixed. Maybe the Taylors had a piece of paperwork that they forgot to submit. I was put into a room with a couple of people, and that is when I met Dr. Arnette.
I've always worked with people who are undocumented but know it, right? Like they know that they entered the country without authorization, and so they're often victims of other things, but to actually have to tell someone who thinks, she was about to be a senior in high school, she has all of these hopes and aspirations, and then to find out, oh, by the way, you were never adopted, and you have no authorization to be in this country, was heartbreaking.
At the time, I didn't really know what being undocumented entailed. I was mad at the Taylors, of course, for lying to me. I went through a dark season where I was angry at the world. I was angry at myself.
Were you scared at all that you might be sent back to Nicaragua?
Almost. I was terrified. What would happen if I were to be deported right now?
Do you blame them for that?
Oh, I blame them for a lot of things that come with being an undocumented person. I wouldn't have to be worried about being deported if they had just done what they were supposed to have done.
And how hard would that have been for them to do that?
Not that hard, because they were given a lot of resources and help by many people. They had the money at the time to do it the right way, but they just didn't.
The Taylors' fraudulent adoption was criminal, but Fatima was still not a citizen and needed a visa to stay in the United States.
You have to cooperate in the investigation, right? So you basically now have to testify against these people who you've known as mom and dad, and that's the only way that you're going to qualify for this visa.
I was very anxious the whole time because I knew that I knew that they would be telling other people about what I wrote and how disgusted they were that their once loving, amazing daughter would write such horrible things about such heroic and kind people who raised me, who did everything but breathe for me. They will say, and they did in court, We do not consider ourselves heroes. We just fell in love with this cute, adorable little girl and we wanted to help her. But in my eyes, they consider themselves heroes.
Those heroes plunged Fatima into years of fighting for her citizenship, but luckily she found a real hero in Dr. Arsenjega.
When you come in, right, and you're the adult who tells her, like, this is what's going on. I also felt a responsibility to mentor her. She had a stroke last year, and I, picked her up from the hospital. She's certainly gotten to a point, like, we don't talk as much now as we did in the first year or so after we started working together, because I see that now she's built a new community.
Now she has a family of her own, her husband Jeremy and 1-year-old son Brenlin. Unfortunately, she still can't escape the negative impacts left in her life from the people she called mom and dad for so many years.
Due to her status and stuff, she doesn't have insurance, and so she's racked up thousands of dollars worth of medical bills, especially with Renlin being born and everything. And I actually just got through talking to my HR lady, and she is now on insurance for the first time. So we're a couple $1,000s out of debt now.
Woo! Something as simple as that, a lot of people who are on their parents' insurance are, they don't have to worry about stuff like that. But for me, it's been very stressful. So knowing that now, that's really exciting.
Did you just find that out?
Yeah, that's what who I was on the phone with when I ran outside.
That's so exciting.
That's
it's
exciting.
Little steps,
oh,
right?
it is.
Oh, absolutely,
it is. It has
absolutely.
definitely humbled me, for sure. On and I still have moments where I want to get a job, but I can't go out and get a job. It's stuff like that reminds me that I am undocumented.
Despite the betrayal, there's still a part of Fatima that holds on to the family she once had.
I looked at Jeremy and I was like, I really want to go see the Taylors to introduce Renlin to them. And they saw me clearly and they saw Renlin and they just closed the garage door and blocked my number. And I decided at that point, I don't want anything to do with them at the current moment.
What do you plan on telling Brenlin about, your story?
If he asks me, who are your parents, I will be honest with him. And I want him to form his own opinion of what he thinks, but I will tell him the truth. Truly, no matter how many times I ask, no matter how many times I rephrase the question, I will never know the real reasoning or intention behind them not doing it the right way. I sit and think, I wouldn't have to be worried about being deported if they had just done what they were supposed to have done.
What an incredible story about an even more incredible person.
Yeah, Fatima will continue to be an inspiration to us all around campus.
Speaking of incredible people, let's move on to an incredible leader.
Sadie Stevens has that story.
Since 2014, Dr. Elizabeth Davis has not only served as the president of our university, but Furman's first female president. Dr. Davis has had an accomplished career and won numerous awards and recognition for her institution, the Furman Advantage, and her influence in the community. She was even named one of Greenville's top 50 influential people by Greenville Business Magazine. You might be wondering, what is it really like to be the president of a university? How does one person oversee and represent thousands of students and faculty while also having a family and household of their own? I sat down with President Davis to find out.
Besides a supportive family environment where I was never presumed to follow a certain path, one of the first things that I think was impactful was that I went to an all-girls high school. And so girls were always presidents, and I was drum major. And there was never any indication that women couldn't do something. And so when I went off to college, I picked a major, computer science, that was just emerging at that time, and it would have been an unusual major for for a female. But then after Calculus 2, I decided that was not going to be my future, and I switched to accounting. So I had very supportive professors. I had a very good job out of college where I worked for a public accounting firm, but that didn't seem to be my long-term path. I really liked the idea of teaching and what I thought was going to be my career in teaching because of what I had seen my professors at Baylor. So I went to graduate school at Duke, and that's where I got my PhD in accounting. And I met Charles our very first day of class in a behavioral decision theory class. And he was getting his PhD at UNC Chapel Hill at the time. So when we graduated, we both got positions at Baylor University, and just started out as a professor of accounting, just like Charles. And we did not have children at the time, so we were able to schedule our classes however we needed to. But then when we had kids, the department was so supportive that one of us taught on Monday, Wednesday, and the other one of us taught on Tuesday, Thursday. But so there's another level of support, right? A department that really was going to help us to be able to have that work-life balance. Our department chair announced that he was leaving, and so that I kind of threw my hat in and said, hey, I'd be interested in being the interim. And nobody had really known that I was interested in administration. And quite frankly, I didn't know it either, but it was something new to do. And it just was something that I really enjoyed. I love being able to figure out how to do things better, how to make people's lives easier. And so I moved up through academic administration, which is a very typical path to a presidency. So my last position at Baylor was executive vice president and provost. So I was over all the academic units. And I had done that long enough that I was ready to be done. So it was either go back to the classroom, which would have been fine, but I had people encouraging me to pursue a presidency. So we gave it a try, and here I am.
Though she makes it look easy, President Davis's impressive career path has at times taken a toll on her health and well-being.
So I haven't always done it well. I mean, I recently lost a lot of weight over COVID. So sometimes it's really been hard. In fact, I've had weight issues my whole life. And when I get really determined, I can do it. I can lose weight. I can be healthy. But stress almost always sends me back the other direction. Some women, my third day on the job, commented on my clothes. And I know that if it had been a man in a similar situation, they would have not made such a comment. And so knowing that I'm always being looked at and evaluated for what I wear is hard. Of course, events, where there's food and dessert and all this kind of stuff can be difficult. Going out of town can be difficult because it's hard to plan around when things are going to be there. So I can't say that I've always done it well, but I can tell you that without Charles, I wouldn't have been able to do it at all. I mean, it's a real partnership that he makes sure, that he's making food that, that works for me.
Even with all of the support from her husband, this groundbreaking female leader has had her share of unique challenges.
Well, one of the first things that was so funny was the trustees were so worried about what job Charles would have because he was, would be moving too. And they kept saying things like, well, we know an accounting firm he can work for. And we said, well, no. He's in academia because he doesn't want to work for an accounting firm, right? And so this real worry that if he wasn't happy, it was going to all, fall apart. Some of the other things I think have been, people just not knowing who the president was, so they'd always go to Charles whenever, we'd be there together. Things around athletics, whatever decisions are made around athletics always have to do with me being a woman, if they're not positive. It helps being tall, and it helps having a financial background, because that gives me a lot of credibility, and I can look eye to eye. So even though I'm tall, I will wear heels.
That financial background is not the only quality she brings to the table.
Leadership isn't about a title. You can demonstrate leadership abilities just by being able to influence people to get things done. Don't think that you have to decide really at any time what you're going to do next. So I decided I wanted to see if I could be a university president when I was 50.
Wow, Dr. Davis really is an inspiration to us all.
Those are some real words of wisdom from our president.
Well, for many of us seniors, we'll soon be entering the workforce, chasing our passions and figuring out what kind of life we want to live. But this next story exemplifies the determination of some who see their passions actually come true.
It's a hard job if you don't like it. You have to like doing it. To me, it's not a hard job, but because it is hard work, but it's rewarding.
For many, hair can determine a mood. We've all suffered the effects of a bad hair day, but for others, hair care is a passion. Wanda Whitlock holds that passion and has for over 50 years as owner and operator of Whitlock's Hair Salon.
Well, I always liked doing hair. I would work on my friends, and when I was a little girl, I used to do my mom's hair. I'd stand in a chair behind her and roll her hair.
The salon, which is located in Berea, a small community on the west side of Greenville, came about one day as an unassuming idea.
I opened this shop when I was about 30 years old, and before that, I did office work. I worked for the Furman Company, and I was the secretary. But I'd always liked doing hair, so I just decided to take a leap of faith and open my own shop.
In the early 1970s, very much in the spirit of the times, Wanda decided to push against the notion that women could not become entrepreneurs and open her own salon in a very peculiar way. With the help of her husband Charles, Wanda enclosed her 2-car garage and converted it into a fully functioning hair salon.
Back then, a lot of the ladies weren't doing things like that. They were staying at home, and they were afraid to venture out. And back when I started my shop, there was no booth rental. Now girls can do booth rental, and they can have their own business. It's like you're working for yourself, but you don't own the business. Back then, they didn't do that. We worked on a percentage basis, like 60-40. And I decided one day, I want to do all that for myself. I want all that money. So I decided I'd open me up a little shop.
She had a passion that back then, the women didn't start their own business and didn't continue. After they got started, they got discouraged and didn't do it. So she continued to do it, and she's doing it today. And we have lots of friends that started their business back then, and they had to quit and get out of it.
This unassuming business venture not only provided the Whitlock family with a steady income for decades and some great haircuts, but has also brought together a community of lifelong friends.
Every day's funny in a hair salon. Every day's a new adventure. We just have a good time and talk about the Lord, and it's like family here.
She amazes me when she does coloring. You go out there and watch her, and she'll be doing a color on this lady, and then she'll be doing a perm on this lady, and then she'll be cutting another woman's hair on here. And you think that it's something else to sit there and watch her do all that. And how does she remember where to start cutting that again? So I think she does an outstanding job.
It's been really rewarding, and I've enjoyed it, and I'm still doing it, and I still enjoy doing it. I have a nice clientele. You see them on a regular basis. They get to be like family.
Tucked away in a small corner of the community, the salon has become a mecca of high hair, sharp wit, southern hospitality, and more importantly, friendship for over 50 years. A dream built from a young mother's desire to follow her passion, the salon continuously serves countless customers, or as Wanda likes to call them, friends.
Wanda's persistence to chase her dreams truly is remarkable, and it looks like it's paid off.
As a Black student athlete myself, I know that our experience differs from other athletes on campus. Out of 9 women's sports on this campus, only 4 have Black athletes, and out of all sports on campus, there are only 2 Black women coaches. It was super important to highlight their experiences.
You have great presence. I think that is something I love hearing, is like when you walk into a room, do you dim the light or do you brighten it? And so I'm trying to be a bright light to anyone who notices. And so but at the same time, just being me and owning up to who I am. So.
One of the most notable coaches on this campus is Jackie Carson, the head women's basketball coach. The Furman alum and Hall of Famer has been here 12 years.
I'm the first Black female head coach at this university. We're one of the few in leadership, period, across the university. So it just means a lot, and it just kind of adds some weight, but it's like a healthy weight.
Coach Carson played for the Paladins from '96 to 2000 and really made a name for herself as one of the finest women's basketball players in Furman history. Now, as the winningest coach, she is someone females like junior Sydney James looks up to.
Coach Carson definitely is a very big role model here at Furman. She played here at Furman, so she represents school and just like being a Black female coach, and I think she definitely embodies diversity and the definition of being Black at a PWI.
Coach Carson teaches her team to address the negative while presenting the positive.
We talked about being a female, being a Black female, how it affects you in the workforce, how you have additional hurdles or you may have to climb, how there's constant microaggressions, how there's, like we just address that really strongly and with full transparency in our program all the time. Because as females, it's already going to be harder in certain, jobs and markets because it's male dominated. And then even as a Black female, not only is it male dominated, but it's also, white dominated. And sometimes we're misunderstood.
While Sydney stands on the shoulders of Coach Carson, she also sees her own place in a line of strong women.
Being a college athlete, regardless, comes with a lot of responsibility. You have to be a role model for everybody else. So I think just having little girls look up to us and see that you can be a woman of color in college athletics, that's just a really big thing.
Out of 9 female teams here at Furman, only 4 have women of color. There are a total 15 Black student female athletes. 8 of those are on Coach Carson's basketball team, which means the other 7 are spread across 3 teams. Kelsey Watkins is a junior middle blocker on the volleyball team.
Definitely something that I like about my experience at Furman playing volleyball is that our team, I'd say, is decently diverse compared to some other teams. It's not like I'm the only Black girl or person of color at all on our team. So I feel like having, other Black teammates or just being really close as a team, I feel like a sense of community and unity in that sense.
Junior midfielder Hannah Farr plays soccer, where she is one of 2 women of color on her team.
Because I just remember growing up watching the one person that I probably had as a soccer player was Kristen Dunn. So seeing that I am on a similar path to her, and just how 10 years ago there wasn't as many Black women in the sport as you see now, it just means so much. And I try to use that every day as a reminder of what I'm doing, who I'm playing for, so maybe that other girls who are coming up also would have this similar opportunity.
Even though she's seen progress, Farr says her sport has a long way to go.
How do you feel about kind of the diversity that you see here at Furman? Or do you wish that you could see it grow, or do you see that it's getting better?
Yeah, I say spread out across all the teams. The diversity is okay, but of course I would like to see more. As far as my team go, I think we're one of 2, so there's only one other Black girl on the team, and it would be really important, I think, kind of influential, like I was talking about, for young girls who come and watch the game, see Furman, to see more Black girls playing in the sport. So I definitely say that it's okay, but there's always room for improvement.
Okay. Being one of these athletes to me is such an honor. Being the only Black female on the women's golf team is important for me to make this program and other programs on this campus more diverse. And the biggest way to promote diversity is to remember that we're playing for something that's bigger than ourselves.
you know, our girls just see and finally recognize some of the microaggressions, because, you know, how often as Black females do we hear, oh, you speak so well? Well, that's not something you'll hear traditionally a white student being told. And, you know, there's always, and I think student athletes get a little bit more to that, because a lot of times we're perceived as only being here because we're athletes, where they have no idea how hard it is to get in here as a student athlete. It's almost harder than a normal student, but I think we just deal with it on a daily basis. So it's almost managing dealing with the microaggressions instead of, is there a blatant time that, you know, that our student athletes have seen it.
I try to take it in stride though, and kind of use this opportunity and position, this voice that I'm given, to kind of make improvements and see where we can go from here.
We all know sometimes in life you just have to play the game. But when it comes to diversity in sports, Carson also says it's up to us current athletes to use our voices to create the change we want to see.
Talk about what you need on campus. Talk about what outlets, what makes us feel more included on campus. I do feel like we've lost that a little bit. But I think it's very important that our students say, hey, this is what would make my Furman's, you know, experience better as a Black student or as a Black student athlete. I think that's where you have campus's ears. And I think campus is very open to making sure it's as inclusive as possible. So be very open to and very vocal about what you want to see at Furman.
Dalton, I can't emphasize enough how important representation is in sports.
Yeah, it's great for young women to see that they can play at this level too.
It's something I think about when I get on the course every day.
Well, the men's basketball team has seen continuous success throughout the last few years. However, one player is taking big steps to focus on his individual success.
Follow Neci Harris for this story on Mike Bothwell.
Though having a shot at playing in the NBA may be slim for most of us, Mike Bothwell is shooting his for this upcoming draft.
Mike Bothwell is a senior point guard from Cleveland, Ohio, who has been making major plays for the Furman men's basketball team since its freshman season. Head basketball coach Bob Ritchie says Mike has really stepped into his own during his time with Furman.
Mike's somebody that towards the end of his freshman year, we start to really see take some steps, and had a really good game in the semifinals of the SoCon tournament versus ETSU at the end of his freshman season. And that kind of propelled into his sophomore year to a bigger role. He was basically like a sixth start for us the majority of his sophomore year, and then ended up starting towards the end of his sophomore year. And then really his junior year is when he started to become the all-conference player, you know, that he is now.
Mike says that playing during COVID played a big role in his flexibility to enter the draft and also keep his eligibility to play for his fifth season.
NCAA granted every current player during the COVID pandemic extra year of eligibility, so I'm going to come back for a fifth year, but before that, I'm entering the NBA draft to try to get feedback and workouts from teams in order to see what I need to work on for when I do return for my fifth year. I will hopefully be doing the right things to head closer to my dream of playing in the NBA.
Coach Ritchie is in full support of Mike's choice.
He wants to be able to test the waters of the draft process to see if he can get some workouts with NBA teams for the most important reason of just getting some feedback. You know, and it's one thing the coaches that he hears from every single day, but it's another thing to get the feedback from the decision makers that are going to be making these selections.
The last time a player out of Furman was selected in the NBA draft was 1984. George Singleton, the third-round pick to the Los Angeles Lakers.
I know of Clyde Mays, Jerry Singleton, obviously the big name is Frank Sylvie back in the 50s. So Furman's had some NBA players, but it's been a while, and none under the helm of Coach Ritchie. So it would be an honor for to be the first NBA player Coach Ritchie has ever coached.
Bothwell says it's the mentorship he's received here that's made him the player that he is today.
Coach Ritchie and his staff has always been extremely honest with me, so he doesn't sugarcoat anything to any of his players. So the weaknesses that I've had since I've gotten here, he's always had a plan and try to strengthen them. So I've definitely grown as a person, which made me a better player on the court. I've gotten stronger with the help of Coach Matt in the weight room. My shot has improved, my IQ has improved, and just my mental toughness probably and my will to compete has probably improved the most. And that's what I think has helped my game get to the next level.
The Cleveland Heights native started playing when he was 4, but began taking the sport seriously at the age of 12.
Around that time was when I realized that I really wanted to play professional And even if I don't make it to the NBA one day, if I could just play in the G League or overseas, that would be a great option too. And I would feel like I accomplished a lot of my dreams.
Dreams he's realized through focusing on his own game.
I can say 12-year-old you is don't worry about all the other kids that you think are better than you now or think that they have it easier, like life's made for them. I would say just keep working, trust God, have faith in him, and just know that your path can be different than everyone else's.
We're wishing this baller nothing but success as he shoots his shot towards scoring his dream. I'm Neci Harris, reporting for the Nightly News.
Mike is one of many exceptional athletes on this campus.
Yeah, we can't wait to see what he does next. We've been so proud of him these past 4 years.
Speaking of exceptional athletes, Kayla Patterson has a story on one that may not be as well known.
One of our fellow Paladins, Nath Kapoor, will be biking across the country this summer. Here's more on Nath.
Imagine riding your bike 4,000 miles across the country on a road just like this. I know that I couldn't do that, but I know someone who is. Here's his story.
Junior Nath Kapoor is participating in the Journey of Hope this summer, where he will be a part of a team of 20 that will bike over 4,000 miles across the country in 66 days to spread awareness and celebrate the abilities of all people.
So this bike trip is a trip that was started in the 80s with Push America, Play Units for the Severely Handicapped, and it's now a part of the Ability Experience charity, which is Pi Kappa Phi's philanthropy. So every year, 40 guys from chapters of Pi Kappa Phi all over the country meet in Seattle and San Francisco and Sacramento, and then bike across the country. And we are going to visit communities along the way, and those visits will be called friendship visits, and we'll like play games with people, communities with people with disabilities.
Training for something like this is important, but rugby player and Nate's fellow PICAP, Mark Calvin, says building awareness is too.
Ride Across America, which Nath is doing, one, it builds awareness of the organization as a philanthropy, but two, also it's a really public-facing way to raise money. So Nath has been doing everything from biking 60 miles in a day outside of the library to getting tattoos, just kind of the fun stuff of fundraising to help some people out.
Nath had never considered biking competitively until he heard about the Journey of Hope through his fraternity.
So the lady in charge of recruiting was reaching out to people in our chapter, and the guys were joking like, psh, like I'm not gonna do this. But I was like, well, when else is someone gonna get the opportunity to do something like this? Like spend a whole summer just traveling on a bike across an entire continent. And along the way, the purpose of the trip is to help other people and build bonds and build community. So, which is, I don't know, something I want to do in my career. So the pieces sort of clicked, and when I signed up, I didn't really know why I was doing it, but I had that feeling of pulling. It was pulling me to do it, and I just followed that impulse.
Following that impulse, Nath has been training hard and building up stamina to pedal for 4,000 miles in just 66 days.
So we're supposed to be getting like 100 miles a week, which I've been doing a little less than that, but still working on it. And in addition to the cycling and like getting a nice bike, there's running, there's swimming, and then there's like lifting and like weight training. So you have to have like a certain amount of strength to do that a day and day again. So that's been the biggest challenge in training.
Physical training is only half the battle. The other half of the challenge is the mental aspect.
When you're on a bike and you're on a bike for a long time, it's important to be in the now and pay attention to your surroundings. So I think the emotions are like letting that anxiety like just filter through my body and let it go, and then just keep paying attention to the people and the things around.
Through his training, Nath said he's had some doubts.
When I'm riding and I get away from the now and I get out of the meditation state and into my head, that can be scary, because if I'm like if I'm in like the middle of Nebraska or we're at Kansas feeling like, oh my God, I regret this, that's not gonna be good. So I guess another part of the training is mental training, figuring out how to be okay with like doubt and be okay with, forgive myself for feeling that anxiety, and then like working on returning to the immediate vicinity.
Moving past doubts, Nath is excited for opportunities this experience will bring him.
I think the experience will bring an opportunity to be a part of like a tribe or a team, doing something in common for a long period of time, which is something not a lot of people get the opportunity to do anymore. And that's something I want to like experience in my life. Like, what is it like to be a part of a team, a group that's doing the same thing in common, and finding like a flow and a place where they can operate almost like an unspoken channel.
Though the training has been intense, Nath has also had to raise money. For some of the fundraising, he decided to combine it with his training.
So one of the people in charge of the trip had the idea, or like recommends us do like bike-thons, where we put the bike on a trainer and sit outside the heavy trafficked place and get people to pay for me to do miles or sign the helmet or buy food. So on Monday I did that all day from like 10 a.m. to 6. And I think I did around 85 miles. Yeah, it was awesome. And people were constantly like there wasn't a moment that day out there that I was just alone, which was crazy.
Yeah, I definitely couldn't do that. But to make sure Nath isn't alone on his journey, you could follow along on his Instagram at nath.kapoor. And the link will be under this video on our YouTube channel. I'm Kayla Patterson, reporting for Nightly News. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Kayla, and good luck to you, Nath. We're excited to follow along on your journey and hear all about your experiences next fall.
I can't wait to follow Nate's Instagram journey this summer, and I'm looking forward to all of his posts.
Fact: homeless rates are dramatically increasing in Greenville. Caroline Brickle has a story of success and the change we can make to change that in Greenville County.
All you need to do is open your eyes, see the need, and look to lend a hand. Coordinator of Greenville Homeless Alliance, Susan McLarty, says this is a growing social issue in Greenville County.
Homelessness is a bigger issue than any one agency or government entity alone can solve. It's time, as we've seen, to try a different way, a collective way.
Emma Ferguson found herself in need of a helping hand when she was in her 50s. Her journey into homelessness began when she couldn't find housing she could afford, and she is not alone. After struggling to find a shelter for weeks, luckily her path led her to Shepherd's Gate, a women's shelter in Greenville County. There are more than 100,000 homeless women in the United States. Emma was one of them.
If you don't have anywhere, what we call exit from the experience of homelessness, then, it's just like a bottleneck of more and more people backing up, waiting to potentially enter Shepherd's Gate.
When I walked in the doors, I felt at peace. They pour so much love into people that they do not know, unconditionally, on a daily basis.
Emma works and volunteers at Shepherd's Gate in the kitchen, where she can combine two of her passions, cooking and serving other women. The Greenville Homeless Alliance has created affordable housing that is near homeless shelters in Greenville County. For example, Renaissance Place is within walking distance to Shepherd's Gate. That's where Emma exited homelessness and moved into her new apartment.
Here at Renaissance Place, it's not just about a home, which is obviously the most important thing, but it's got all these other amenities right here on the site that are accessible. We've seen the library, fitness room, computer room, and also the laundry room. Mail is delivered right here. All of those things together provide everything someone needs.
Without Greenville Homeless Alliance, their partner agencies, and volunteers, Emma might be on a very different path today. She says she's grateful they've given her the key to get back on her feet.
I felt love. I felt wanted. I have, and I still feel that way. It's not a job, they're my family.
With your help, there's so much that can be done to help others like Emma and end homelessness in Greenville County.
You can reach out to the Greenville Homeless Alliance through their website. There's a connector form you can fill out to receive regular information from them.
Everyone has a story, everyone has a voice. Reach out to the Greenville Homeless Alliance to make a change. Speaking of everyone having a story, this next one showcases the creativity of Furman's very own Isiah Ives. Isiah has a cool talent that he has been able to share with the Furman community.
Alexis Hildenbrandt has the story for us.
It's all about getting people enthusiastic about your idea, no matter how unconventional it seems to be. Because all it takes is someone, they may not understand what you're trying to do, they may not even appreciate what you're trying to do until it's done. But if you can get them excited about whatever it is, that's all you need. And oftentimes, that's all it needs to lead to victory.
Putting people's opinions aside, Isiah Ives thrives on his track of creative ideas. While taking his academics seriously, he spends the rest of his time creating projects for his enjoyment, but also to bring people pure happiness.
Also, ever since I was very little, absolutely been enthralled by bridges. Bridges in skyscrapers, buildings, constructions, infrastructure in general. A lot of my interests kind of fall in that large umbrella category. But within that, I've always found a beauty and a resilience in the humble bridge. And I'd say third or fourth grade, I was rambling on by a storefront. And in that storefront, they had an immense Ferris wheel. And that Ferris wheel was built out of these things here. Now, these are kind of like Legos. They're called connects. Similar idea, just rather than bricks, they're kind of rods and connectors. They're very construction-oriented.
Isiah took his two interests of building and gazing and decided to turn them into something that people could not help but stare at.
Last year around summer, I was talking about 2 years' time since I came to Furman and left my connects back home behind. And I was really missing them. I was longing for something to keep my hands and mind busy. And as a result, I found myself rambling about the lake. And ramble on by I did to a location just outside Lakeside and Dining Hall area, near the Place of Peace. And right there's a water runoff stream. It comes from the rainwater collect system in Travelers Rest and kind of torrents and rages by, feeding the north side of the Furman Lake. And I gazed upon that. And that's when I knew there had to be a bridge over there. For who, I don't know, but I just wanted to build a bridge. I felt it in my heart and soul. So I decided often when I get an idea or something in my mind, I am determined to get it done, which is for both good and for bad. But I was convinced this needed to go down.
FUPO officer Dwayne Leslie was impressed with Isiah's bridge and now has a close relationship with him after seeking information on the projects.
I've seen Isiah do so many things, so many creative things on campus, from the bridges, just on Saturdays, Sundays when I'm riding around, and I see so many kids and families get out and they're just amazed by the bridges that he's built, and they interact with the bridges and the kids love them, from the train horn of taking the car around campus and the snack truck and getting students to come out and engage with him that way, to amazing things he does with his drums, to the big man on campus. I was a judge. I saw him do that, and he just really has such a positive impact on our campus community, and he's just such a great person.
Isiah has noticed many people admiring his bridges as they walk by. It fills him with delight and excitement that he gets to share his creations with other people.
People's reactions have been overwhelmingly positive and supportive. There's a whole group, the bridge deputies, a group of regulars who make their appearances when I'm building the bridge, or occasionally help carry heavy things across the stream here and whatnot.
Isiah's love for building new creations has just become a part of who he is.
I just really like to push myself to make whatever dream or vision I have come to reality. And most of those are somewhat far out there. Bridges, train horns again. Yeah. But each project's been a learning experience, helping me successfully complete projects in the future. So I suppose there's something to be said about that, but ultimately, I guess that's just a part of who I am, liking to build these things.
I love walking by the lake and seeing Isiah's bridges.
They add such a fun and lively element to our campus.
Well, unfortunately, that's all we have for our first special edition show. However, we do have our second and final special edition show for this spring.
Here's Carly Hart to tell you more.
Dive deep into the Seeking Abraham legacy by checking out the other special edition episode on our YouTube channel.
All right, Paladins, I'm sad to say this is goodbye. It has been such an honor reporting for you guys this spring.
Yeah, I'm truly going to miss messing with some of you guys on the library steps and trying to get opinions on some of the most random things I could think of. There's definitely going to be some big shoes to fill around here.
This is Kyra Cox.
And this has been Dalton Arnette.
And we're reporting live for the final time on the Nightly News.
It's the lashes. Singular. Oh, it's gone now. Ooh, I have an eye booger.
They can't see it.
You guys let me talk with an eye booger?
Why do I look like that?
Okay,